Hi, this is Jackie here with the Sexy Politico podcast, coming to you from my kitchen, trying to record quickly but efficiently. Now, recently, an unknown person has leaked a copy of the Supreme Court decision an early draft of a Supreme Court decision written by Justice Samuel Alito. This decision would overturn the precedent of Roe v. Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood. But before we get into all of that, I want to remind you all to check out the Sexy Politico on our website, thesexypolitico.com, to also check out the Sexy Politico on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the social medias and YouTube. And we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/thesexypolitico. And if you could, just be so kind, listen right here for our sponsor. So there was a leak of the Alito draft of a Supreme Court decision that would overturn Roe v. Wade. Chief Justice John Roberts confirmed that this leak was real and also emphasized in his statement that this is a draft and that this is not the final say on anything. But according to this draft, it would be a 5-4 decision overturning Roe v. Wade. So, what does this actually mean for the average person who can give birth, to somebody who can't give birth? What should we even do about all of this? So, to move forward, let's discuss how the Supreme Court kind of works. So when a Supreme Court case is argued, the justices in practice will hold a preliminary vote. You know, they listen to their argument and then they're like, and give their general feeling on the whole thing. If the Chief Justice is in the majority, he will either write a draft opinion or assign another justice, who is usually the most senior justice, to write that draft opinion. If the Chief Justice is not in the majority, then the most senior justice within that group of people will write that majority opinion. Now, what is implied is that Chief Justice Roberts is not in that 5-4 decision, which is why Samuel Alito wrote that decision. The draft is dated February of 2022. The majority of Supreme Court decisions are handed out by June, so it's beginning of May right now, so there's well over a month before the final decision will be handed down. Now, at the time that I'm speaking, abortion is legal in all 50 states, although Texas has the most stringent abortion ban because it bans abortions after 6 weeks or heartbeat. So if you're reading this right now and you think you may need abortion services, I would get on that, because if Roe is overturned, almost half the states in the United States will have some sort of abortion ban or Texas-type restriction on abortion. And only 16 states and Washington, D.C. have laws that protect a birthing person's right to choose to have an abortion. Who knows what these protests that are going to be happening in D.C., well, at the time that this is posted, will have already happened in D.C. and the rest of the country. It's not going to affect the Supreme Court, but what it should affect are the midterm elections. Every member of the House of Representatives is up for re-election. Many states will also have their state legislative elections and their governor elections, and this is an important thing to realize. The Alito opinion states that it's not subjugating women because women vote more and more women are registered to vote in this entire country than men are. I mean, so because women vote more, then they're not being subjugated by the men that they vote for, is his logic. He's not taken into account all of the issues with the American voting system, but that's a whole nother bag of cats. So what Alito's decision and his statements in this preliminary decision, what it should do is it should be galvanizing women to run for office. Sprint for office. Just go. Honestly. Women need to run for office. We need women especially in state houses, because that's where because if the Roe decision is overturned, then that returns abortion to the states. So we need more women in the states to make sure to protect abortion rights in every single state. As of 2021, there are 24 women in the U.S. Senate out of a total of 100 voting members, and 120 women in the U.S. House of Representatives out of 435 voting members, and 4 female delegates who cannot vote. That's about a quarter of the voting members of the U.S. federal legislature are women, and 3/4 are men, and that does not take into account ethnic minorities and other type of minorities. I'm just talking about pure gender. So if only a quarter of the people who are voting on all of these things in the federal government are women, so who's making these choices? These choices are being made mostly by men. And I'm sure that these ratios are different from every single state, but we cannot pretend like it's a 50-50 split. I would like somebody to tell me a state where there is a 50-50 split between men and women in their voting legislature. Anybody? Can anybody tell me? All right, moving on. Members of the Supreme Court are appointed for life, and they're supposed to be above politics, but if this Alito opinion ends up being what's read, I think myself and many other people are going to be questioning the court and its motives and things of that nature. If the Alito decision is the decision that stands, it would effectively ban abortion in half the country and would affect the poor and working class more than anyone else. According to a December 2021 article in Very Well Health, 40% of the people who participated in this survey who had abortions for financial reasons. So in a country that does not have comprehensive medical care, child care, maternal leave in all 50 states, banning abortion puts women at an even greater risk of seeking alternative means of having an abortion. And banning abortion, as we all know, does not actually end abortion. It just makes abortions unsafe. And what about the argument that these women could travel to other states that allow abortions? I mean, there's no roadblocks in between each state. If a woman is already living paycheck to paycheck, where would she have the money to travel or take time work or take time off of work or pay for any other necessary expenses, considering most women who have abortions already have had children? So they would also need to pay for childcare or things of that nature. Abortion will not be banned for women with access. Abortion would be banned for women who are living on the margins, primarily women of color, LGBTQ people, people without means or access. If you're stuck in the middle of the Midwest, where a lot of it's a big old hunk of the Midwest and South where all these abortion bans and all these trigger laws will hit, and it's someone in the middle of Kentucky or the middle of Oklahoma who's just going to be SOL because they won't have easy access to a state surrounding it that they would be able to drive to get an abortion. So if you are upset by this possible decision, rather than protesting, we all need to do something more substantial. Run for office. Emily's List will help any pro-choice woman running for state, local, or federal office. And while they might not give every candidate money, they will help with resources. And if you're not in the position where you can run for office, then support pro-choice candidates with your time or money. More than ever, it's critical for you to vote, and vote for those who represent you and your issues. Thank you for listening to the Sexy Politico podcast. If you'd like to support us, please do so on Patreon, patreon.com/thesexypolitico. And also check out many different resources with Planned Parenthood, Emily's List, things of that nature. We need to get more women in office. We need to get women who understand this issue more than we see all of these male legislators who don't understand that an ectopic pregnancy can kill you, and that they need to not legislate that you could be thrown in jail for having an abortion because of an ectopic pregnancy. We need women in office. We need women who understand female anatomy. We need people who have some brains and are not just working on an agenda and are working for people. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. Stay sexy. Bye.